Well, in this part, I'm going to talk about something that is a problem. Okay? It's something that I've seen is a problem in everywhere from the mainstream Christian church to every Torah fellowship on the planet and this fellowship here. And it's something that people just take on kind of almost unthinkingly. It's something that is taken on almost experientially by the fact that other people talk about it. And so it becomes kind of this mythology that everybody just accepts is right. Everybody accepts that it's true. But we need to examine it because the source that it actually comes from is not good. It's not good for us to be paying attention to these things. It's not good for us to be trying to guide our lives by these things. Deuteronomy 4:15-20 says, "Therefore diligently guard yourselves." Okay? Quite a powerful instruction to diligently guard yourself, because you're going to need to do this. You're going to have to be diligent to guard yourself against this. "For you saw no form when Yehovah spoke to you at Horeb out of the midst of the fire, lest you should do corruptly and shall make for yourselves a carved image in the form of any figure." Okay, so lest you should do corruptly and you make this image of Yehovah, which is not really the image of him. "The likeness of any beast that is on the earth, or the likeness of any winged bird that flies in the heavens, the likeness of any creature that creeps on the ground, or the likeness of any fish that is in the water under the earth. Unless you lift up your eyes to the heavens and shall see the sun and the moon and the stars and all the host of the heavens, and you shall be drawn away into bowing down to them and serving them, which Yehovah your Elohim has allotted to all the peoples under the heavens." So Yehovah has allotted this to all the peoples under the heavens. We're to be holy. This is what we're to be holy and set apart from. All of these people, they make images of what they think spirituality is about, what they think that God is about. Whereas Yehovah didn't show us any image when he appeared. We didn't show them any image. The image that he shows us is his word. That's how he shows us who he is, and that's the only image that we are to have of him, what is discerned through his word. But Yehovah has taken you and brought you out of the iron furnace. We looked at that phrase. Okay, I think that a better translation, at least to portray its meaning for us in the world, is oppressive melting pot. Okay? He's taken you out of the oppressive melting pot, that of the peoples of the world. He set us apart from that. Out of Mitzrayim to be his people, his Kedoshim, an inheritance as it is today. Okay? But what people tend to do is they take these pagan forms of spirituality and they ascribe it to Yehovah. They put it over his image and they make it the image of Yehovah, when actually his image is only revealed in his word. And yet people kind of take things on by commonly expressed mythology or commonly expressed beliefs, and they think that is Yehovah as well. 2 Chronicles 33, 1-2 says, "Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 55 years in Jerusalem, where he did evil in the eyes of Yehovah, according to the abominations of the Gentiles," okay, which were to be set apart from, "whom Yehovah dispossessed from before the children of Israel." So what did he do? It tells us in verse 6. "And he made his sons pass through the fire in the valley of the son of Hinnom." Now this valley of the son of Hinnom, okay, later in the Tanakh it's called the Valley of Hinnom, it's shortened. Valley of Hinnom in Hebrew is Gay Hinnom, okay? And in the Septuagint version, okay, when we get the Greek word for Gay Hinnom is Gehenna, okay? It's what Yeshua says when he says, "Don't fear those who can destroy the body, but those who can destroy the body and soul in Gehenna." Because this was a place where people would be burnt up. Okay, and what he's doing is he's making an allusion to the fact that these people are going to be burnt up in the lake of fire. People think, "Well, what's Gehenna?" It's something that they would have understood when he said it's better than you get thrown in Gehenna. and practiced magic, used divination and witchcraft, and consulted mediums and spiritists. He did much evil in the eyes of YHVH to provoke him. Okay, so what he did is he went after all of this pagan forms of spirituality. Okay, I'm not saying that these things don't have power, that they don't have spiritual power. I'm saying they do have spiritual power, and we need to be very careful to diligently guard ourselves that we don't take any of this sort of stuff into the worship of YHVH. Verse 26 says, do not eat meat with the blood. Do not practice divination. Do not interpret omens. Do not interpret signs. Okay, in the Septuagint version it says, eat not upon the mountains, which I would suggest is probably what it should say, rather than do not eat the meat with the blood, because it's talking about these pagan practices. Eat not upon the mountains. You shall not foretell nor use augury. And augury is this interpretation of signs. Okay? Took this from a very new age, dodgy website. But when I read through it, what I want you to do is listen to it and think, does that sound familiar? Does that sound like the way that I live my life, or the sort of things that I look for in my life and ascribe to YHVH, this pagan spirituality? Of all the skill sets required for effective manifestation, interpreting signs from the universe can often be the most challenging, and it might be useful to you. Instead of when it says the universe, substitute in there YHVH, okay? Interpreting signs from YHVH can often be the most challenging, okay? And we hear all of this, don't we? I'm learning to hear the voice of YHVH. I'm getting more attuned to hearing what it is that he's got to say, okay? If YHVH wants to say something, he'll say it clearly. He'll say it objectively to you, and he will bring about what he is saying. He doesn't mess about. He doesn't quibble. If he tells you something, then it's because he's in the course of bringing it to being. After all, many of us have spent large portions of our adult lives being told to ignore our intuitions and dismiss gut feelings. So when the law of attraction expert steps in and tells us we need to do something different, it can be tricky to make that massive shift. And yes, for some people it can be tricky. Some people have actually become accustomed to this when they were living in the ways of the Gentiles, of listening to intuitions and gut feelings, and then they come into this knowledge and they attribute them to YHVH. And it's how YHVH is going to speak to them now. Okay? And that can lead people astray. Because I know this as well because of personal experience. I'm not talking about something that I'm ignorant of. What happened to me is when I was, I don't know, say 13 probably, I started taking a lot of drugs, experimenting with a lot of things, smoking cannabis, particularly at that age. But as I got older, I took probably every drug you could name. Apart from methamphetamine, I never took methamphetamine. I took all the hallucinogens, I took LSD, magic mushrooms, all of the 2Cs, 2C, 2C7, 2CI, 2CE, 2CB, all of those things that you might not have heard of, broma, dragonfly, and all sorts of ridiculous hallucinogenics. So fixated in the end on ketamine. And all of these things, what they do is they allow you to see a glimpse into the spiritual realm. And as soon as you start to see into the spiritual realm, what happens is you start to see the world in a very different way. And what I started to see was that everybody in the world has just got this really narrow view of reality. They don't even understand that the spiritual realm exists at all. I can see the spiritual realm, and now I'm on this journey of spiritual awakening, and all of the knowledge that comes to me of the spiritual realm is going to be beneficial to me, and I'm going to go after these things. And I'm going to be in a better position than all these people who have no idea of what's going on in the spiritual realm. So I started taking drugs. Don't know, maybe about 4 or 5 years after, I started to have these really, really weird experiences to do with the number 11 and the number 22 at first. Okay? It happened maybe 2 or 3 times, but the first times were to do with the number 11 and the number 22. And I started seeing them everywhere. Okay, every time I'd look at a clock, it would be 11:11 or 22:22 or 11:22 or whatever combination. And I'd see them absolutely everywhere. And I was thinking, this has got some kind of significance. And I attributed its significance to something in my life. What I did is I interpreted it subjectively to be speaking about something in my life at the time. And then it kind of went away for a while. But I was still taking drugs, still starting to see more and more of the spiritual. And it came back. I was working at a firm of solicitors at the time. And it was so significant. It was so, because obviously I was aware that I might just be seeing these things. I might just have become sensitive to the numbers 11 and the number 22. So I might just be seeing them everywhere. Every time I saw it, maybe that was what I was making significant. So what I did, the time I was seeing number 11, number 22, number 33. And as this progressed, it would go to 44, 55, 66, 77. By the time it was 33. So I started to write down these occurrences because I was thinking, is this just me noticing these numbers and they become significant to me, or is this happening in some kind of weird way? So what I did is I wrote down every time these numbers occurred. First 11 times that I wrote this down on this particular day, the only day that I wrote it down, they were to do with the number 11. Okay, these occurrences. Might be, see the email, look at my watch, look at my phone, whatever. First occurrences were to do with the number 11, the first 11. The next set of 11 occurrences were all to do with the number 22. And the next set of occurrences were all to do with the number 33. And I was being very, very careful at this point to notice when I was looking at things, and if I looked at things and the numbers weren't there, or if I looked at them and they were there. And every time I looked, the numbers were there, every time. First 11, 11, next 11, 22, next 11, 33. Then when I looked deeper at the pattern that was happening there, in the first set of 11, okay, say the first one was to do with when I got an email from someone, the time of the email. First one to do with the time of the email. The first one in the next set of 11 was to do with the time of the email. First one in the next set of 11 was to do with the time of an email, 11, 22, 33. And this was true all the way through every one of the set of 11. The second one would be corresponding with the second set, the third set, all the way through. Every one corresponded. The probability of that happening is just astronomical. It's impossible, basically. So I knew that this was something that was specific that was happening to me. And this was so obvious and it was so specific that I knew that I was being guided spiritually by this. And what it did is it led me down a certain path. Okay? When I was interested in all of this, I remember one time I'd gone to the library. I can't remember why I was in the library, but I know that I was in this certain section of books. So it must have been something to do with that, something to do with this spirituality. When I was there, a book fell off the shelf in the library, and it fell open. I picked up the book, and what my attention was immediately drawn to, as it said, an example of synchronicity would be if you were in a library and a book fell off the shelf, open at the page that you were supposed to read. Like, oh. I didn't know what to do with that information. I was alone in the library. I was like looking around at other people like, this is insane. But the point is that it was so significant, it was so specific, and yet it was not from a good source. There are two sources of this sort of spiritual guidance. There's Yehovah, and this was not Yehovah. Okay, it's not the way that he works. But there's another source of this spiritual guidance as well. That is what we're to diligently guard ourselves against. Here are 5 stages to work through. Okay, this is the advice of the pagan New Age website. Become increasingly receptive. Okay, great advice. If you think about how you feel about the idea of interpreting signs from the universe, you might notice there's some anxiety or skepticism in the mix. While this ambivalence is entirely understandable, it reduces your ability to receive. In other words, you need to develop a genuine desire to hear what the universe wants to tell you, to become curious about its signs and willing to accept its answers, even if they come in an unconventional format. Okay? So, in other words, you need to develop a genuine desire to hear what Yehovah wants to tell you to become curious about his signs and willing to accept his answers, even if they come in an unconventional format. Okay? People have this sort of mythology, don't they, about that's how they walk with Yehovah. Okay? Problem is, we're getting this information from a New Age website. Okay? It is telling us that this information is going to come to the Gentiles, people that we're to be set apart from. We're to only have the image of him from his word. And you're not going to find any of this in his word. One helpful way to boost your receptivity is to read about how signs from the universe have helped other people in their law of attraction work. Not only does this allow you to see that this sort of occurrence is possible, but it also gives you a rough idea of the kind of signs that might be coming your way. Okay, we read before, didn't we, about that women have a tendency to gossip and be busybodies. And this is something that is perpetuated through this. Okay, so one helpful way to boost your receptivity is to hear about how the signs from Yehovah have helped other people in their work. Not only does this allow you to see that this sort of occurrence is possible, but it also gives you a rough idea of the kind of signs that might be coming your way. So you've got people on the periphery who have never experienced this sort of stuff before. And they hear everybody talking about, oh, I got this sign, this weird thing happened the other day, and it guided me to this. So people hear about it, and then they know, well, this might be possible. This is how Yehovah works. So I'm going to pay attention to this, and I know the sort of signs that might be coming my way now. In some cases, the signs are very literal, e.g. a billboard or a flyer encouraging you to do something in particular. However, at other times, they may be more symbolic, e.g. relating to what certain colors or shapes mean to you. And this is a real major problem in this. It's interpreting things subjectively, what it means to you. Because the problem is that these things come from familiar spirits. And the thing with familiar spirits is that they are familiar with you. They know exactly how to get to you, exactly how to speak to you, and exactly what you're going to respond to. Okay? So, don't go by what something means to you, your subjective interpretation of it. Turn your attention outwards. A lot of law of attraction work revolves around your inner life, visualization processes, reciting affirmations, making dream boards, and so on, encourage you to turn your attention inwards. This is important, but so is your ability to look outwards and see what Yehovah is trying to show you in the world around you. What's Yehovah trying to show me in the world? All of these events which happen, maybe it's Yehovah. I'm going to be looking out for these things now, and then everything that happens, I'm going to interpret subjectively and ascribe some kind of significance to, and then feel like I'm being guided on this magical journey by Yehovah. Cultivate a habit of paying attention to what you see on the street during your commute, in your office, and everywhere else you go. Look for unusual or noteworthy things in your environment. Maybe try to mentally or physically note at least 5 of these things per day. Any one of these things might be a sign from Yehovah. Just considering this, you increase your capacity for spotting such signs when they're there and when they're not there. Okay? You increase your capacity for believing that anything that you see might well be a sign from Yehovah. If Yehovah is trying to speak to you, he's not going to do it through these little subjective wisps of nothingness that cultivate some kind of thought in your life. Things that you would have previously in your life maybe not have paid any attention to at all, but now suddenly everything's significant. Yehovah's in charge of everything, isn't he? That must mean that every event has some kind of significance to me. Not how Yehovah uses signs. Yehovah uses signs to confirm or to validate something. He doesn't use them to give significance to every event in your life or potential significance to every event in your life. You shouldn't be going through your life trying to look at everything and trying to see if it's a sign from Yehovah. Start looking for patterns. This is an instruction manual to descend into delusion. Start looking for patterns. Once you become accustomed to picking out interesting things around you, and what's interesting to you, it's the things that are already interesting to you. Okay? If it wasn't already interesting to you, it wouldn't be significant. Yehovah doesn't work like that. Yehovah does give signs, but the type of signs that he uses are objective in nature. An example, I know the Dudeks went through a similar thing. Before I'd ever spoken to Ashley about marriage, before there was any expressed romantic interest between us, she started seeing everywhere that she went things about England, okay? Flags, maps, whatever. It's just England, England, England. Something came through their door, which was a thing about Wales and Snowdonia, which later became significant. And she even got a purse that had on it a map of a specific place in England. Anyone guess where it might be? Okay, it's a map of the Wirral in Chester. Really, really specific. You can't interpret that subjectively and be like, what is Yehovah trying to tell me? Maybe it's something about England. It's obvious, isn't it? Before anything had been said, and then what does Yehovah do? He brings about the events that then make sense of those things. So you're like, oh yeah, okay. He has been speaking to me. I didn't know what it was about, but he's brought about this event. Yehovah doesn't do things that he's not going to bring about. He's not going to tell you something that he doesn't then bring about. He's not the author of confusion. He'll bring about something and he'll draw your attention to something over and over and over again. Maybe, I'm not saying this is the only way that he works, but it's objective in its meaning. It's not some subjective flight of fancy that we go on. And then he does it for a purpose. He does it absolutely so that his will is done. And he brings about the thing that he's been speaking to us about. Again, you can either write these down or simply remember them. The key to this is to make this a normal part of your day until it is second nature. How many people do this? How many people looking for signs in the world around them becomes second nature to them? For example, if you're looking for a new partner and are impatient to manifest romance, pay attention. If you keep seeing an advert for one particular concert or restaurant, it could be that this is where you're going to meet the love of your life or meet the person who will eventually introduce you to the love of your life. And these are things that these entities work on specifically. They work on things that are emotive to us, strong drivers in our lives that they know already have strong significance to us, that they are able to manipulate us easily through. And again, I know this from personal experience. I got into divination very, very strongly about divination. And obviously the things that you divine about and the things that you want answers to are things that are very emotive to you, things that are very important to you. So it's all from this side with these entities, because their goal is to get you to believe anything that is not the word of Yehovah. And they'll just come along and they'll just nudge you off course slightly. In the beginning, they'll nudge you off course. And the more you start to respond to these things, as it's saying here, the more that you look for them, the more they can do this, and the more they make you trust in them and not in the word of Yehovah and in the image that he's revealed through the word of Yehovah. And then when you're trusting in them and you're following all of these things that are happening in your life, then they can start teaching you bad doctrine or making you think about things in a particular way and making you think that it's Yehovah, making you think about that thing in a particular way, when actually all they're doing is they're leading you astray. Heighten your own sensitivity. Once you've established the baseline level of ability to interpret signs from the universe, you're in a position to fine-tune and improve that skill set. In particular, start thinking a bit more about your inner life again, this time with the goal of seeing signs from Yehovah in your own thinking. Wow, great advice. Now my own thinking is full of signs from Yehovah. The things that I'm thinking are from Yehovah. Brilliant. That's going to end well, isn't it? Okay, we've descended to a point now where the things that we think, that's Yehovah speaking to me because I thought about it. We are all connected to the energy flow of Yehovah. So repeating motifs in your thoughts can count as signs as well. A good example of this is recurring dreams. While they don't always need to be interpreted literally, they can give you clues about what Yehovah wants you to know. Repetitive dreams about travel might prompt you to consider moving, while seeing an old face in a dream might signal that reconnecting with them could lead to financial abundance or career advancement. Whatever, just interpret it subjectively. Just, if this sort of stuff's happening, then great, it's probably Yehovah speaking to you. If you're thinking about something a lot, probably Yehovah. It's probably guiding you in that. But we've got to be careful here to differentiate, because Yehovah does guide us in our lives. Okay, but as I say, he does it objectively. He doesn't leave any kind of question. It's not kind of if, buts, or maybes, or maybe it was something that he said to me, maybe it wasn't something he said to me. No, if he speaks to you, you know that you are being spoken to by Yehovah. Give you an example, okay? Recently, it's come to our attention about buying this building, okay? It makes no sense, okay? We're quite happy paying this small amount of money that we pay to have pretty much all of the usage of the building all of the time. We don't have the money to spend 100 grand on a building. Doesn't make any sense. Maybe about 4 weeks ago, I can't remember how long it was, said to Charlie that I think basically that Yehovah wants us to buy the building. Charlie said the obvious. Well, all well and good, but we're not paying very much for it at the moment. Why would we take on a building? Why, when we can just rent it and use it? I can't even remember how Yehovah brought it up to me. But from that point onwards, he started showing Charlie. And he started showing him in the way that he shows Charlie these things. Usually when something weird happens on his phone, and Charlie's spoken about it before, okay? Brought up something on Charlie's phone for him to see about the house of Yehovah. Also, when I spoke to Charlie, he was saying, well, maybe it's not a good idea to speak to the guy who owns the building, because maybe then he'll just get it into his head that he's going to sell the building. I say, oh yeah, fair enough, that would be pretty bad. Then what happens? A woman comes who's speaking to me as I'm unloading stuff into here, who happens to be a Jesuit, which obviously makes you think, better be careful of this person, a Jesuit. And she starts to talk about the fact that maybe they will buy the building. So what's Yehovah? What's he done there? He's gone, okay, you're worried about this thing. That's a good thing to be worried about. Here is a reason why it might not be good to hold that above the fact that someone else might already buy the building out from under you. Then I didn't start getting a stream of them. I got once somebody contacted me about, they wanted to use this building. They said, we found your number online, which is so bizarre. So bizarre for them to find my number, because it must have been off the website. We found your number online and we want to rent the building off you. Any other time that it's happened, they've always got in touch with the mission who are actually in charge of renting out the building. And they've said that they wanted to start using the building for this stream of events. Okay, again, taking the situation of us having control of the building all of the time for a relatively small amount of money. Taking that and saying, well, maybe now somebody else is going to start coming into this place, which is holy to Yehovah, and using it for this stream of events. So all of these things, Yehovah was answering. So we decided that we were going to speak to Rob about it. Decided that who's the guy from Liverpool City Mission, decided that we were going to meet him here at the hall and speak to him about it, the two of us. I rang up Rob to ask him about this. He didn't seem very keen on coming here. He's really, really busy. But he mentioned, he happened to bring up, he said, the last meeting that we had, actually, we were discussing the long-term plans that we've got for the building. I'm like, oh, what long-term plans are these? Of course, what's Rob's long-term plan for the building? They want to sell the building. So, as I say, it's not just us subjectively interpreting things. It's these things coming up. Buy the building, buy the building, buy the building. Then it's not just us. It's Yehovah. He's involved in it as well, and he's driving these things along, and these events happen that show you that it's Yehovah. Then you know, okay, this is Yehovah that's guiding me, because it's not me trying to do anything. I couldn't have done this in my own power. He has brought it about. He has established this thing. So then you know, well, this is Yehovah, because it was him that did it. It's completely different from these subjective interpretations of science that people get involved in. Release your investment This is the classic, this one. Finally, due to the inherently subjective nature of sign interpretation, be aware that you may have a tendency to see what you want to see. Oh, really? Fantastic. Okay, so maybe now it's going to give us some amazing piece of advice to avoid this. Sometimes it's not Yehovah speaking to you so much as it is your own desire for change speaking to you. To reduce the likelihood of this, you need to fully surrender yourself to what Yehovah wants to tell you. Oh, brilliant. Just as you're becoming aware, maybe this isn't Yehovah, maybe this is me, or maybe this is a spiritual entity that is misleading me here, because it's not according to his word. I know what I'll do. I'll fully surrender myself to this and really go for it. This is going to be brilliant. If you're looking for an answer or some guidance, simply view yourself as a passive recipient of that information and consciously let go of your investment. How do you do that? If you're looking for a specific piece of advice or a specific piece of guidance, how are you ever going to view yourself as a passive recipient of that information when it's so specifically for you? You're not a passive recipient of the information. It's only ever intended for you. It's going to be significant to you. It's not like you're going to get a piece of advice that you think is from Yehovah and you're just going to go, yeah, just be a passive recipient of that information. I won't pay any real attention to it. Trust that the universe, trust that Yehovah really does know what's best for you, even if what it wants to show you isn't the thing you want it to see. And this is something that I've heard people say over and again. Okay? I know that this is Yehovah telling me this because it's not what my flesh would want. My flesh wouldn't want to do this, so it must be Yehovah. Okay, let's get into what we want, okay, as believers in Yehovah. If we've taken on that Yehovah really does know what's best for us, and then we get a piece of advice, even if it's not what our flesh would want, what it is ultimately what we do want, which is some kind of guidance from Yehovah, which is going to ultimately be for our best. That whole argument is a deception, okay? It doesn't hold water at all. Okay, so now that you recognize this, you can diligently guard yourself that you don't put this pagan New Age image of the way that the universe or God works on top of Yehovah and make that about the worship of Yehovah, because it's incredibly, incredibly dangerous. Now we've got a choice at this point. We can go on and we can read all the scriptures that are about all of this stuff, or we can take a little bit of a break. I realize that, we've been sitting here and it's been quite heavy. So if people want to take a break, then we can take a break and then we'll go into the scriptures. Or we can continue now. Carry on, okay? Beloved ones, do not believe every spirit, but prove the spirits, okay? I wish that I'd had this advice when all this spiritual stuff started happening to me, because all I could see is this must be good. This is stuff that nobody knows about. This must be the most brilliant thing. So because we come from a material world sort of mindset, when something spiritual happens, we ascribe massive significance to that thing and automatically kind of think it must be good because we're getting some kind of spiritual guidance and we know that Yehovah's in charge of it all, so maybe we should go with that. Not the advice that we get, though. It's don't believe every spirit. Every spiritual experience that you get, every bit of spiritual guidance that you get, don't believe it. Prove the spirits. And we've seen what is of the world that we're to be holy from, and what is from Yehovah and the way that he works. 1 Kings 22, 19 to 23. Okay, this is Prophet Micaiah. Then he said, therefore hear the word of Yehovah. I saw Yehovah sitting on his throne, and all the host of the heavens standing by him, on his right or on his left. And Yehovah said, who shall entice Ahab and go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead? And this one said this, and another said that. So he's got all of the host of heaven. That which we heard about before, that it's been ascribed to or appointed to the Gentiles to worship. They're all sitting on his right or standing on his right and left. This one said this, another said that. Then a spirit came forward and stood before Yehovah and said, let me entice him. Okay, so this is a spirit that's coming before Yehovah and saying to Yehovah, let me go, I'll entice them. And Yehovah said to him, in what way? And he said, I shall go out and be a spirit of falsehood in the mouth of all his prophets. And he said, Yehovah said, entice him and prevail. Go out and do so. And now see, Yehovah has put a spirit of falsehood in the mouth of all these prophets of yours, and Yehovah has spoken evil concerning you. Who put the spirit of falsehood in the mouths of all these people? It was Yehovah. Okay, so let's not think that these things are just automatically not going to happen to us. He does it for a particular purpose, which we'll look at. Deuteronomy 13, 1-5 says, when there arises among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and he shall give you a sign or a wonder, okay, or a spiritual experience, a sign or a wonder, and the sign or the wonder shall come true. They've said this sign, and then it comes true, of which he has spoken to you, saying, let us go after other gods which you have not known. Let us go after other gods that you've ascribed this new age kind of image to, the God that you've not known, and serve them. Do not listen to the words of that prophet, that dreamer of dreams, for Yehovah your Elohim is trying you to know whether you love Yehovah your Elohim with all your heart and all your soul. This is his purpose in it. He wants his people to be Kedushim. He wants them to be set apart from all of this nonsense, and the only image that he wants them to see of him is his word. He wants them to go back and try all these things by his word. But Yehovah is involved in this. Walk after Yehovah your Elohim and fear him and cherish his commands and obey his voice and serve him and cling to him. And that prophet or dreamer of dreams is put to death because he has spoken apostasy against Yehovah your Elohim. Okay, so Yehovah is using an event that is bad, that he would not have happen, but he's using it in order to achieve his purpose. Who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim and redeemed you from the house of bondage to make you stray from the way in which Yehovah your Elohim commanded you to walk. Thus you shall purge the evil from your midst. Again, they come. These things just want to knock you a tiny bit off course. They're coming to believers who really want to follow the word of Yehovah. They're going to be subtle. It's going to knock you off a little bit, until you trust the information that comes from a source which is not scriptural. Ephesians 6:11 says, put on the complete armor of Elohim for you to have power to stand against the schemes of the devil. Okay, so what does this tell us? The schemes of the devil are going to be against us. And the way to defend ourselves against this is the armor of Elohim, which it goes on to say is his word. It's all just different ways of saying his word. This is how you defend yourself against nonsense. You don't go experientially off these things and say, well, they must have power. They must be showing me things because they're spiritual in nature. No, we test the spirits. How do we test the spirits? We test them by his word, because Yehovah is trying to prove us to see whether we'll follow his word or not. 2 Corinthians 11:13-15 says, for such are false apostles, deceptive workers, masquerading as apostles of Messiah. And no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. It's not surprising then if his servants also masquerade as servants of righteousness, whose end shall be according to their works. It doesn't matter what they come and tell you. It doesn't matter if they come and tell you something that's beneficial to you. It doesn't matter if they come and reveal something in his word that's amazing to you. None of that matters. What matters is whether or not it's in accordance with his word that they've come and given you this stuff. In the first place, they're going to masquerade as workers of righteousness. That's how they're going to fool people who pursue after righteousness. Romans 11 verse 12 says, and if their fall is riches for the world and their failure riches for the Gentiles, how much more their completeness? Talking of how Yehovah uses people's fall. He uses things that are bad, objectively bad, that he doesn't want to happen. He uses them to achieve his purpose. So we can't reverse engineer a situation and say, well, it had a good ending, so it must have been Yehovah in the first place. That's not how it works. Yehovah knew the end from the beginning, and he knew that he was going to use all of these things to achieve his purpose, but it doesn't mean that that's what he wanted to happen all along, that he would have, if he was in control of it, made these people sin or break his word. 1 Timothy 4:1-2 says, but the Spirit distinctly says that in the latter times some shall fall away from the belief, paying attention to misleading spirits and teachings of demons. Okay? It's prophesied. That's what's going to happen. Okay? There's going to be this increase in wickedness. People are going to pay attention to the misleading spirits because really they don't know the word well enough to know that these things are bad. Well, they do, and they just ignore it because it's a spiritual experience. Woo, spiritual experience. Speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their conscience seared, and this is a major problem because you'll speak to people about stuff like this, but their consciences are seared against it. No, you telling me that I've not been walking with Yehovah all my life? 20 years I've been following his guidance. Consciences are seared against it. They want to listen to the misleading spirits. They want to listen to the nonsense because that really is what they love. They don't love Yehovah because his image is not enough for them, his word. They want these spiritual experiences and to be always guided and to look at everything and maybe it's Yehovah trying to show me something in this. Judges 6, 11 to 17 says, and the angel of Yehovah, okay, remind ourselves who this is, this incredibly powerful being that speaks as Yehovah, that is described as Yehovah in many places, one of which we'll see, came and sat under the terebinth tree which was in Ophrah, which belonged to Joash the Abiezerite, while his son Gideon threshed wheat in the winepress to hide it from the eyes of the Midianites. This is Gideon, okay? The angel of Yehovah appeared to him and said to him, Yehovah is with you, O mighty brave one. What a brilliant message that you would really want to have come from Yehovah, that you'd want Yehovah to be saying to you. And Gideon said to him, O my master, if Yehovah is with us, then why has all this come upon us? And where are all his wonders which our fathers related to us, saying, did not Yehovah bring us up from Mitzrayim? But now Yehovah has left us and given us into the hands of Midian. And Yehovah turned to him and said, go in this strength of yours, and you shall save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Have I not sent you? It's Yehovah saying it to him directly. Okay? And he said to him, Oh Yehovah, what do I do? With what do I save Israel? See, my clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house. And Yehovah said to him, because I am with you, you shall smite the Midianites as one man. How much is he going to want to believe this? That Yehovah is telling him, you go, I'm with you. And he said to him, please, if I have found favor in your eyes, then show me a sign that it is you that is speaking with me. This is the angel of Yehovah. This is Yehovah speaking to him directly. And he says, please show me a sign that this is you speaking to me. As I say, Yehovah uses signs to affirm his word. He doesn't use them to give us a kind of a spiritual experience throughout our life that we subjectively interpret. So Gideon wants to know, and he says, give me a sign. And people will pray this, and they'll say, if this is really you, please give me a sign. And the sign doesn't come. And they go, okay, give me a sign at some future point. And just eke it out and out and out. And then when they see anything that they can subjectively interpret to be a sign from Yehovah, they say, oh yeah, that was the sign. That was the one. Yehovah wasn't powerful enough to give me the sign that I asked for, or do it in the time frame that I'd asked for. He had to give me this subjective sign later on because I don't want to let go of this thing that I think that Yehovah has told me. I've left these in again because they give us signposts as to where we're heading. Okay, so this is how the Spirit truly works. 1 Corinthians 12, 4-11 says, and there are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit. There are different kinds of services, but the same Master. And there are different kinds of workings, but it is the same Elohim who is working all in all. To each one is given the manifestation of the Spirit for profiting. Okay. These are the signs that Yehovah gives. This is why he gives his Spirit. He gives it for his purpose to be achieved. Okay? That's why he gives it. He doesn't give it so that we have a nice magical journey throughout our lives. For to one is given a word of wisdom through the Spirit, and to another a word of knowledge according to the same Spirit. What is wisdom and what is knowledge? It comes from his word, doesn't it? That's what it is. Has anyone ever been in a situation before where you've been talking to someone and just the right scriptures been coming one after another? It's the operation of the Spirit, and he'll give you his word. And to another belief by the same Spirit, and to another gifts of healing by the same Spirit, to another operations of powers or miracles, and to another prophecy, and to another discerning of spirits, and to another kinds of tongues, and to another interpretations of tongues. But why is he doing all these things? He's doing it for his purpose to be achieved. If you read why all these things come into existence and what they're for the edification of the body, or for the edification of the self, if it's a tongue spoken on your own. But they're to achieve his purpose. That's why he gives it. But one and the same Spirit works all these, distributing to each one individually as he intends according to his purpose. Ephesians 3:14-19 says, "For this reason I bow my knees to the Father of our Master Yeshua Messiah, from whom all fatherhood in the heavens and earth is named, in order that he might give you, according to the riches of his esteem by power, to be strengthened in the inner man through his Spirit, that the Messiah might dwell in your hearts through belief, having become rooted and grounded in love, in order that you might be strengthened to firmly with all the set apart ones, all the Kedoshim, know what is the width and length and depth and height, to know the love of Messiah which surpasses knowledge, in order that you might be filled to all the completeness of Elohim." So what's all this talking about? Is this all just talking about airy-fairy kind of whatever you think the love of Messiah is? No, it's talking about his word. We know that that's what the Spirit's given for. It's to help us to walk in all his statutes and his judgments. It's to help us to become Kedoshim, as it says, so that we know the depths of his love, so that we know who he is in his word. But this is all to do with his word. And you'll find these things, these times when the Spirit speaks are according to his word. Luke 12:11-12 says, "And when they bring you into congregations and rulers and authorities, do not worry about how or what you should answer or what you should say, for the Ruach HaKodesh shall teach you in that very hour what you should say, a word of knowledge or a word of wisdom coming to you." Matthew 10:19-20, "But when they deliver you up, do not worry about how or what you should speak, for it shall be given to you in that hour what you shall speak. For it is not you who speak, but the Spirit of your Father speaking in you." What do you think that they're going to be speaking at that time? They're going to be speaking the word of Elohim in accordance with the word of Elohim. 2 Samuel 23:2 says, "The Spirit of Yehovah has spoken through me. His word is on my tongue." Okay, this is how he would always speak through his prophets. And Nehemiah 9:28-30 says, "But after they had rest, they turned back to do evil before you. Then you left them in the hands of their enemies so that they ruled over them. But when they turned back and cried out to you, you heard from the heavens and delivered them according to your mercy many times, and warned them to bring them back to your Torah. But they acted proudly and did not obey your commands and sinned against your judgments, which if a man does, he shall live by them. And they gave the rebellious shoulder and hardened their necks and would not hear. And you had patience with them for many years and did warn them by your Spirit in your prophets." So what did they do? They came and they spoke the word to them again. Acts 21:3-4 gives us an example of prophecy being given by the Spirit. "And having sighted Cyprus and having passed it on the left, we sailed to Syria and landed at Zoar for the ship which to unload their cargo there. And having found disciples, we remained there 7 days. And they told Shaul through the Spirit not to go up to Jerusalem. And having come to us, he took the girdle of Shaul, bound in his own hands and feet, and said, 'Thus says the Ruach HaKodesh, thus shall the Yahudim at Jerusalem bind the man who owns this girdle and deliver him into the hands of the Gentiles.'" So it's something very specific. But you'll notice in all of these cases, nobody is there going, "I wonder if Yehovah was speaking to me. I wonder if I was being spoken to then. I don't know, I'm going to have to work it out." They all know that they're being spoken to. They have a specific prophecy if it's a prophecy that's being given. It actually reminds me one of the things. When women come together and they talk about all these things and they talk about all the signs that have been leading them in their lives and all of that sort of thing, what does the Apostle Paul tell us that women aren't to do? He says that they're not to teach doctrine, but the thing that I'm thinking of is he says that they're not to interpret prophecy. He says that they're not to teach doctrine because they were deceived by Hasatan. So there's something about the nature of a woman that made her able to be deceived by Hasatan. And if we look at the very basic differences between men and women, women are more emotional and they're more compassionate. When they come together and they're speaking to each other, they speak with compassion towards one another. So if a prophecy or a sign from Yehovah is given, very unlikely that the women are going to go, sounds like rubbish, that. Man might do it, okay? And, women and men are of different tendencies, and some women you're going to get that will do that, and some men you're going to get that won't. But generally, Yehovah knows the sexes. He knows how they were designed. He knows what their strengths and weaknesses are. Not that men are above women or women are above men. They're both equal. They've both just got different roles. So the absolute worst thing that you can be doing is coming together and talking about all these signs and what's going on in your life and all of the rest of it with a group of women. Because you're just bringing prophecy to be interpreted by other people, and all they're going to do is they're going to listen to what you're saying and go, oh, yeah, that sounds great. Or whatever. I'm not meaning to demean women in this. But they're not going to be the objective interpreters of doctrine and the interpreters of prophecies, and we're told specifically not to do that anyway, whatever your own position on that is. Not what we're to do. It's a dangerous situation, and it leads to people walking in delusion. Okay, misleading spirits and false visions, because we are to diligently guard ourselves. Jeremiah 23:32-40 says, see, I am against those prophets who prophesy false dreams, declares Yehovah, and relate them and lead my people astray by their falsehoods and by their reckless boasting. But I myself did not send them, nor have I commanded them, and they do not profit this people at all, declares Yehovah. He's not very happy with these people. And when these people or the prophet or the priest ask you, saying, what is the message of Yehovah? Then you shall say to them, what message? I shall forsake you, declares Yehovah. As for the prophet and the priest and the people who say, the message of Yehovah, I shall punish that man and that house. We have to be so careful. If we're going to say that Yehovah has said something, we have to be so careful to ascribe his name to something that we're not even sure about whether he said. That's real danger there. This is what each one says to his neighbor and each one to his brother. What has Yehovah answered and what has Yehovah spoken? Do you recognize this? Conversations that take place. But the message of Yehovah you no longer remember, for every man's message is his own word. For you have changed the words of the living Elohim, Yehovah Sevaot, our Elohim. This is what you say to the prophet. What has Yehovah answered you? And what has Yehovah spoken? But since you say the message of Yehovah, in other words, since you ascribe to it that it was a message that came from Yehovah, therefore thus said Yehovah, because you say this word, the message of Yehovah, and I have sent to you, saying, do not say the message of Yehovah. Therefore, I shall utterly forget you and cast you away from my presence, along with this city that I gave you and your fathers. That is not a situation that you want to be in. Okay? Best advice that I can give. This is what I think Yehovah is saying to me. Then get everyone to agree to it. Okay? Do not say the message of Yehovah. Okay? Don't want to be utterly forgotten. You don't want to be cast away from his presence. And I shall put an everlasting reproach on you and an everlasting shame that is not forgotten. Now, if you've done this in the past, you can repent of it. But don't go on in it. Yehovah sends you a warning. Says, don't do these things. These are not good. Send you a warning. Don't harden your neck to it. Ezekiel 13, 1-8 says, and the word of Yehovah came to me, saying, Son of man, prophesy against the prophets of Israel who prophesy, and say to those who prophesy out of their own heart, hear the word of Yehovah. Thus said the Master Yehovah, woe to the foolish prophets who are following their own spirit without having had the vision. O Israel, your prophets have been like foxes among ruins. You have not gone up into the breaches, nor do you build the wall for the house of Israel to stand in battle on the day of Yehovah. Yehovah says that he will reveal himself to his prophets through a dream, that he will make known to them that they are prophets by him coming to them by a dream. Their visions are false, and their divinations are lies, saying, thus declares Yehovah, when Yehovah has not sent them. Yet they expected the word to be confirmed. They were deluded in and of themselves. They expected that the word would be confirmed by Yehovah because they're deluded. They're not stood on the word. Have you not seen a false vision And have you not spoken a divination of lies? You say, Yehovah declares, when I have not spoken. Therefore, thus said the Master Yehovah, because you have spoken falsehood and seen lies, therefore I am against you, declares the Master Yehovah. You see how dangerous this is. He hates this. He abhors this. Jeremiah 14:14, then Yehovah said to me, the prophets prophesy falsehood in my name. I have not sent them, nor commanded them, nor spoken to them. They are prophesying to you a false vision, worthless divination, and the deceit of their own heart. Again, they're deluded. They believe these things. Jeremiah 29:8, for thus says Yehovah Zevaot, Elohim of Yisrael, let not your prophets and your diviners who are in your midst deceive you, neither listen to the dreams which you are dreaming. Deuteronomy 18:10-14 says, let no one be found among you who makes his son or daughter pass through the fire, as one who practices divination, or a user of magic, or one who interprets omens, or a sorcerer, or one who conjures spells, or a medium, or a spiritist, or one who calls up from the dead. Okay, you notice the company that interpreting omens is in there. It's not a good thing to do. For whoever does these are an abomination to Yehovah, and because of these abominations, Yehovah your Elohim drives them out from before you. Be perfect before Yehovah your Elohim. Be Kedoshim. For these nations whom you are possessing do listen to those using magic and to diviners. But as for you, Yehovah your Elohim has not appointed such to you. So now, praise Yehovah, we're aware of these things and we can just get rid of them. We can repent of them. We can move on and not have this. Yehovah said this. Yehovah's guided me like this. So this really weird thing happened the other day. It was Yehovah guiding me. Okay, not good. Deuteronomy 18:20-22 tells us how to know whether something is from Yehovah. For the prophet who presumes to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or who speaks in the name of other gods, even that prophet shall die. And when you say in your heart, how do we know the word which Yehovah has not spoken? When the prophet speaks in the name of Yehovah and the word is not or comes not, that is the word that Yehovah has not spoken. The prophet has spoken it presumptuously. Do not be afraid of him. If you think that Yehovah has been telling you something, doesn't come to pass, it wasn't Yehovah. Okay? No guarantee, though, that if a sign or wonder does come to pass, that it is of Yehovah, because as we saw before, Yehovah will prove you. He will test you by those things. But one way that you know that it is not of Yehovah is if it doesn't come to pass. So how does he guide us? Psalm 31:3 says, for you are my rock and my stronghold. For your name's sake, lead me and guide me. So he obviously does lead us and guide us. Isaiah 58:10-11 says, if you extend your soul to the hungry and the satisfied and the afflicted, then your light shall shine as dawn in the darkness and your darkness be as noon. Then Yehovah would guide you continually. Okay, so what we're not saying is that Yehovah doesn't guide his people. Psalm 25:4-5 says, show me your ways, teach me your paths, lead me in your truth and teach me. This is how he guides us as to how he wants us to act in a certain situation or as to what we're to do. He leads us and guides us according to his word. He gives us a set of instructions that is a living word that can be used in all circumstances. As we saw before, there's laws that you can interpret to see what his heart is behind situations, not just necessarily the one talked about in the law, but in all the situations like that. So you meditate on his word. You pray as David did for him to show you wondrous things out of his Torah. You meditate on a situation and see how it fits in with his word. That's how he's going to lead us and how he's going to guide us. Oh, Yehovah, lead me in your righteousness. Let them hear your kindness in the morning, for in you I put my trust. Let me know the way in which I should walk. Okay? Is he saying, let me know the way in which I should walk? Bring about these events in my life that I can subjectively interpret and think, oh, maybe this is the way that he wants me to go. No, it's objective. I was stupid and ignorant. I was like a beast toward you. This is how I was. This is me being deceived by all of this spirituality, something that is very deceiving to a person who's born into a very material-focused world. Yet I am always with you. You took hold of my right hand. You lead me by your counsel. Again, it's by his word. And afterward receive me unto esteem. Teach me to do your will, for you are my Elohim. Let your good spirit lead me in the land of straightness. How? What is his will? Delighted to do your will, O my Elohim. Your Torah is within my heart. Let me instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. Let me counsel, my eye be upon you. You see how he does it? Trust in Yehovah with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Know him in all your ways. Meditate on his word. Make everything about him. Every decision that you've got to make it according to his word. Search the word. When I pray for wisdom or pray for guidance, I always pray. I'm not saying this is a prescriptive method to do it, but he leads me by his word. I pray, and then I'll pick up the scriptures, and I won't dip into them and try to do divination via the Bible. I'll pick them up. I'll open them where I was up to, wherever it was. And the number of times that I've done that and thought, this next passage of scripture, I know it very well. And it's got nothing to say about this situation. And then there'll just be something in there that I've just forgotten about, never recognized in the scriptures, and it will answer the situation almost as if he was giving me a word for word answer. He can guide you by his word. You can stand on his word. You can pray, you can ask for guidance, you can ask him to lead you. But don't do it by these nonsense ways that will lead you to your own destruction. And when I talk about all of these things, like when I was talking about, people wanting to be led by the Ruach and not by teachers, I don't say it. So, people get very precious over things, don't they? And then they're resistant, they become stiff-necked, and they don't want to hear. The reason that I'm saying these things is because if you can get rid of these ways of death out of your life, then you're going to draw nearer to the source of abundance and to the source of life, and it's going to be of benefit to you. You might have things and you'll be like, I want to hold on to that. I really want to hold on to it. And that's how people are over all kinds of sin and transgression of his word. But if you can just see beyond that and just let go of whatever it is that's leading you astray, then you will be in a better position. Okay, I don't say follow a teacher because I want to be a teacher and I want loads of people to follow me. I've got very little interest in that. I want to teach the word to people, but the idea of having people following me is of absolutely no interest to me. Okay, I do these things, I say these things, which are unpopular. The dislike count has increased on YouTube, but I do it because if people just take hold of them, they'll be in a much, much better position. Genesis 2 verse 19 has got some very important thing, and we'll end on this scripture for us to pay attention to. It says, and from the ground Yehovah Elohim formed every beast of the field and every bird of the heavens and brought them to the man to see what he would call them. And whatever the man called each living creature, that was its name. Yehovah isn't some kind of ridiculous control freak where he's like, oh no, I must have control over every event. He made all the animals. He didn't say, and I'm going to name them. I made them. So he brought them to the man. And he said, what are you going to call them? As long as you're tending the garden, you're keeping my ways, you're doing what's right. What are you going to call them, Adam? And it's the same for us in our lives. We don't have to have everything dictated by Yehovah. We can walk through our lives with freedom and know that we're walking in his ways. He will lead us in his ways. He will lead us into what is right. He is intimately involved in our lives. He will bring events about by his power. Adam didn't need some kind of subjective sign to appear before him or, whatever, something to mean something to him and go, oh, that must be what Yehovah wants me to call it. He just got on with it. He just named the animals because that's what was in front of him.